Going to do a completing the square video with 3 problems. Completing a square is kind of a silly way to solve a quadratic equation, but schools that like to have you do it. So from the homework assignment, this is number 16, x squared plus 6x minus 40 equals 0. Completing the square is done a few different ways. I'm going to try to do it the way I see most commonly, which is to move over this guy, this 40, to the other side. And when you complete the square, you basically want to identify where B is. B. So B is the number in front of X when everything's organized properly. So what you want to do with B is you want to calculate this number, B over 2 squared. So what that looks like for this, B is 6 here. You want to do 6 over 2 and square that. 6 over 2 is 3, squared is 9. This is the number we're going to add to both sides. Like typing these things in case you have any screenshots, notes that you like to look at. So I'm going to add 9 to this side and this side. When you complete the square, you then factor, but you don't really have to think about how it's factored because it's designed to factor nicely. So this is going to be x plus 3 times x plus 3. So it's the same factor, so you write it like that rather than 2 sets of parentheses. Okay, next for something with this, you would take square root of both sides. I'm just going to write this again just to show all the steps there. So we're taking the square of this, and this should be plus or minus. Square and square root cancel each other out, giving us plus or minus 7. And then we subtract the 3 from that. Get either a negative 10 or a positive 4. Those are our 2 solutions. That's one example of completing the square. Let's see what else I can find. 1 second. X squared plus 18x minus 40. Let's say we had to solve this equation. So like before, you can move over the 40 to the other side. And just leave a space there. And what we're interested in is the value for B. What is B? And then what is b over 2 squared? Because this is the number that you add to both sides. So b is the number in front of x. So b here is 18. So we're going to take 18 divided by 2 and square it. A lot of this stuff can be done mentally. So we're going to add 81 to both sides. The idea behind completing a square is you're taking an equation, you're doing the same thing to both sides. You're not changing anything, but you're just making it easier to work with. Because now you could factor this expression as x plus 9 times x plus 9, or x plus 9 squared equals, and this will be 121. And to solve that, then you could take the square root of both sides. There you get the plus and minus. X plus 9 is positive or negative 11. Just going to subtract 9 from both sides and get ourselves two solutions, negative 20 and 2. Let's make up an example and see how that works out, because everything's a little bit different depending on the kinds of numbers we get. Right here, numbers are all over the place. So to start, nothing really needs to be moved around because you have this is a terrible example. Usually you don't use completing a square with an odd number, but let's see how this works out. So we have to factor out that negative 4. Okay, this is one that's just gonna be a mess. Never mind. Let me change this a little bit. So maybe make this like maybe like a negative 2. I want like things you would realistically use completing a square with. Maybe this will work. All right, so with this one, you could like factor out the negative 2 there. So these expressions are the same. Now, finding this particular number, we're going to half and square it. So our b is negative 7. So b over 2 squared would be like negative 7 over 2 squared. That's 49 over 4. So I'm going to add that to this side. Watch how I add it. I'm going to add it right here. You can't just randomly put things in equations. You always have to balance things out. So if I add a 49 over 4 to that side, I have to add a 49 over 4 to this side as well. Now I'm going to factor this. So if I actually had to think of factors of 49 over 4 that add to 7, that's like crazy, right? So but these always factor the same way. It's always x, plus or minus b over 2. So you'll see how this works here. and that'll be squared. So this part, when you factor, that's b over 2. That's where I'm getting that from. So you don't have to like think about it. This, on the other hand, this is a bit of a pain. So I'll say like this is like 73 over 4. So to solve this, you would divide by that -2 then. To make this -8. Then you would take the square root of that. This is not even a real answer. So you're going to take the square root of a negative number. So this one would actually have, you say, no real solutions.